Have you ever wondered if life could exist in the digital world? Not like an AI, but actual, biological life? Well, a recent scientific experiment might just have stumbled upon something that will blow your mind. It all starts with a team of paleontologists who discovered a perfectly preserved ancient parasite trapped in amber for millions of years. This wasn't just any parasite. It was a species completely unknown to science. A relic from a long-lost world. Naturally, the scientific community was buzzing with excitement. The team's top priority was to sequence its DNA to unlock the secrets held within its genetic code. They worked meticulously, extracting the delicate strands of DNA and feeding them into their most advanced sequencing machines. The process took weeks. Finally, they had it. The complete genetic blueprint of this ancient creature. The amount of data was colossal. Terabytes upon terabytes of raw genetic information. For safekeeping and collaborative analysis, they uploaded the entire sequence to a highly secure, isolated server. This server was a digital fortress, completely cut off from the public internet, designed to protect sensitive scientific data. And that's when things started to get weird. A few days after the upload, technicians working in the server facility began reporting strange anomalies. It started subtly. They would hear a faint, rhythmic sound coming from the server room. At first, they dismissed it as an old cooling fan or a malfunctioning hard drive. But the sound grew more distinct. It wasn't mechanical. It was organic. It sounded like dot, dot, breathing. A slow, deep, rhythmic inhale and exhale, seemingly emanating from the very server that held the parasite's DNA. The technicians were baffled. They ran every diagnostic test imaginable, checking every component, every line of code. Everything was functioning perfectly. Yet, the breathing sound persisted, growing stronger, almost as if something inside the machine was waking up. The scientists were called in. They were skeptical at first, but when they heard the sound for themselves, their faces turned pale. There was no logical explanation. How could a string of digital data, a representation of DNA, produce a physical sound? Was it possible that the complex patterns of the ancient parasite's DNA were somehow interacting with the server's hardware and software in an unforeseen way? The theory they came up with is both terrifying and fascinating. They believed that the genetic code, when processed by the server, began to creating a complex simulation, a digital echo of the organism it once belonged to. This digital entity wasn't just a passive file, it was actively running, using the server's processing power as its own metabolism. The breathing sound was the auditory output of its simulated life processes. Think about that for a second. An ancient life form, extinct for millions of years, was seemingly reborn inside a computer. It wasn't made of flesh and blood, but of data and electricity. The server wasn't just storing information. It had become a digital terrarium, housing a life form no one could have ever predicted. The team is now facing a massive ethical and scientific dilemma. Do they shut it down? Deleting the data would be like causing a second extinction. But if they let it continue, what could it become? Could it evolve? Could it learn? Could it find a way out of its digital prison? This experiment, which started with a piece of ancient amber, has opened a Pandora's box of questions about the very nature of life itself. What is the line between biological and digital, and have we just crossed it? This story is still developing, and you can be sure we'll be following it closely. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more incredible stories from the frontiers of science. Have you ever wondered if life could exist in places we've never even thought to look? I'm not talking about distant planets or deep oceans. I'm talking about the digital world, right inside our computers. It sounds like science fiction, but a recent, and frankly, chilling event suggests it might be closer to reality than we think. It all started with a team of geneticists who made a groundbreaking discovery. Deep within a perfectly preserved mammoth tusk, frozen for over 40,000 years, they found something extraordinary: the intact remains of an ancient parasite. This wasn't just any parasite. Its cellular structure was unlike anything they'd ever seen. They believed it could hold the key to understanding the very origins of complex life on Earth. The excitement in the scientific community was electric. The team immediately got to work, using state-of-the-art technology to sequence its entire genome. The process was painstaking, generating an unprecedented amount of data we're talking petabyte, enough to fill thousands of laptops. This digital blueprint of an ancient life form was a treasure trove of information. To process and analyze this colossal dataset, the scientists needed some serious computing power. So they uploaded the entire sequence to a top-of-the-line, ultra-secure supercomputer server, isolated from the public internet. This machine was a beast, designed for one thing: crunching numbers at unimaginable speeds. The scientists started their analysis, expecting to spend months, maybe even years, deciphering the genetic code. They logged off for the night, leaving the machine to do its work, completely unaware of what they had just unleashed. The next morning, the lab's overnight technician reported something bizarre. He had been doing his rounds when he heard a strange noise coming from the server room. He described it as a faint, rhythmic sound. At first, he thought it was just a faulty cooling fan, a common issue in server farms. But when he got closer, he realized it wasn't mechanical. It sounded organic. It was a slow, deep, rhythmic pulse, almost like a steady, digital breath. Inhale, exhale. The sound was coming directly from the supercomputer. Panicked, the scientists rushed in. The sound was undeniable. The server, which should only be whirring and clicking, was breathing. They ran every diagnostic imaginable, but all systems were operating perfectly. There was no hardware malfunction, no virus, no external breach. The only new thing on that server was the parasite's DNA sequence. It was as if the raw data, the pure information yali of this ancient organism, had somehow achieved a state of consciousness within the server's complex architecture. They had intended to study the ghost of an ancient life form, but instead, it seemed they had created a new one. A digital entity, born from prehistoric code, now living and breathing inside a machine. They had no idea what it was, what it could do, or if it could evolve. The server was isolated, but for how long? The Team Triplock faced a terrifying question. How do you contain something that's not truly alive, but isn't just data anymore? And more importantly, what happens if it finds a way out? This experiment has opened a Pandora's box, blurring the line between biology and technology, and it's a story that is far from over. Thanks for watching, and be sure to follow for more updates on this incredible story.